You're fighting to save an ideal that doesn't exist. Never did. You need to pick a side.
Old foes and allies return in Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. Tom Cruise is back too, of course, for his 7th mission as super spy Ethan Hunt. The blockbuster is now playing in theaters after a 5-year wait, and fans will surely notice more than a few nods to the 1996 original. And Jackson Weaver joins me now to accept his mission and review the film. I had to put that in. Jackson, bring us up to speed. So 7 movies. Tom Cruise is 61 years old, by the way. I know that he's probably not the same age as Ethan Hunt. Bring us up to speed in terms of where Ethan Hunt is in his life of adventure.
I mean, I love that you put in that little nod. I love these little nods that Mission Impossible builds in these films for us. And they kind of are very evocative of what Mission Impossible is. Now, I could talk to you all about the different plot points that we've reached over the last almost 30 years. But, you know, Mission Impossible is not for that. It's just a setup to show some amazing action like you're seeing on screen right now. But the narrowest, shortest way I can describe it, Ethan Hunt is once again, at least partially disavowed. We need to figure out a way to get him away from his resources. There are tensions between America and Russia. A sub is sunk. A key to a nuclear weapon is lost. And it turns out the agent in charge of all of these negative things going on is AI. It's Skynet from the Terminator. It is computers, and throughout the rest of the movie, he goes after it. He tries to get the key back, the weapon back. But instead of explaining all this stuff, all these kind of unimportant plot points, what I think is better is if we show you just a little bit of the action and just a little bit about what this movie looks like.
The key is, don't crash.
Who is that person?
I have no idea.
So, you know, that's what we get. We get Tom Cruise handcuffed to another person, Haley Atwell, in that scene, and chased by a silent, deadly assassin. That's Pom Klementieff, if you know from Guardians of the Galaxy, and she's not technically a Canadian, but she was born in Canada, so we'll give that shout out. But that's what Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 is. It's all those chase scenes, it's all those action scenarios, and gets your heart pumping a little bit.
It does. I'm pretty excited to watch it. And judging from the plot line, it seems like Ethan Hunt's been watching our news, a little bit. No. Tom Cruise has been in Canada, so hi if you're watching. There are a few familiar faces in the cast, Jackson, including, as you mentioned, Canadian actor returning to the franchise for the first time in decades. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of buried the lead a little bit, but you played that trailer off the intro, or off the top rather, and that voice you heard, hopefully familiar to you, Henry Czerny, who played Agent Kittredge back in the original. And again, instead of me explaining his importance and why you should care, this movie's all about showing, not telling. I just because I can, I'm going to show you a clip from the original in this iconic scene that he was in.
Kittredge, you've never seen me very upset. All right, Hunt. Enough is enough. You have bribed, cajoled, and killed, and you have done it using loyalties on the inside. You want to shake hands with the devil, that's fine with me. I just want to make sure that you do it in hell.
Ooh, oh my goodness, that scene again gets my heart pumping. That was again in the original. Henry Czerny is the kind of antagonist, not really in that movie. He's back finally after almost 30 years, as are the Dutch angles in this one, the camera tilted like that. But I actually talked to Henry Czerny, and he told me that he almost did not take this role when it was initially offered to him back in the 90s. Take a listen.
Was not in a good frame of mind. I was working on a film in Brazil. I hadn't slept. I don't know why, but Brazilian air, Copacabana Beach kept me awake. I don't know what the deal was, but I hadn't slept. So I got the call. They want you to do their Kittredge. And I told my agent, I don't know if I can. And he said, no, Henry, you're doing it. You're going to just get yourself in shape and go.
All right, Jackson, I already talked about Tom Cruise's age, 61 years old. Speaking of staying in shape, I mean, he's been making movies for nearly 30 years. Do the stunts still hold up? Is he doing a good job? It sure looks like it from the trailer.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking to Henry Czerny as well about, he has kind of the perfect vantage point. He was in the original Mission Impossible, hasn't worked with Tom Cruise at all since then, and he's back on set with him. I asked him, what's he like? And he said he's better than ever. He's more honed than ever. He is more direct than ever. And I think what this movie actually really shows is that after 30 years, Tom Cruise is the Buster Keaton of Hollywood. You know him. He's from the silent era. He did all these stunts. He did these crazy things, jumping across buildings, and he really did them in real life. Imagine this in color and maybe the jumps a little bit farther. That's Tom Cruise in this film. I was a little bit mean to Harrison Ford maybe the other week because he is 80 and he's doing another Indiana Jones movie. Not the case with Tom Cruise. And there's one scene, actually, it's kind of the set piece, the major set piece in this film. He's on a motorcycle. He's going to go off a ramp. He has this parachute on his back. And it is the iconic scene that this movie is setting up, as all of these movies do set up, whether it's climbing outside of the Burj Khalifa, whether it's hanging outside of a plane as it's taking off. This motorcycle scene off a ramp is the thing they've been marketing and pushing and showcasing. And if I'm going to say one slightly negative thing, maybe, it's not quite as astounding. It's not quite as earth-shattering as those other events that these movies are built and set up around. Here, this is the thing they've been pushing and pushing and pushing. Even in the movie, you get a little jokey nod to this thing that's coming. It's about to arrive. It's not quite as earth-shattering in visuals. It's probably just as hard for him to do as I said, climbing outside the Burj Khalifa, as hanging on the outside of a plane that's taking off. But all that said, the movie itself has so much action and it's put together so well. I mean, we'll talk about it, but I think it's a pretty good movie.
Well, you're certainly making me watch it. Now I want to watch you watching Mission Impossible. Okay, before this interview self-destructs, you knew that was coming. Give us your rating.
I mean, fantastic entries. Maybe not the best Mission Impossible, but that's a tough bar to clear. So strong 4 out of 5 rating. This is something that's worth seeing. Oh my goodness, these make me so happy. Our graphic team is fantastic. We have 4 to 5 stars. Absolutely worth it. Absolutely worth it to see in theaters if you got the time. So if you got some extra moments this weekend, you should check it out.
Yeah, and if you're somewhere rainy, it's certainly something good to do. Thank you so much for that, Jackson.
Thank you.
Jackson Weaver in Toronto with his very energetic review of Mission Impossible.